What is going on? It is Alex coming back at you with another video, and today it is Mock Draft Monday, so we're going to be doing a 2-round mock draft with no trades, one exception, i.e. a quarterback trade. You guys can see that coming. Regardless, if you are new, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. You guys know how to use YouTube at this point. Below my face is my board. Below that is a nice little running ticker of all the ways to get involved in the community, as well as take advantage of our two sponsors, Olipop and UnderDog Fantasy. The links will also be in the description below. Let's get into this. Let's have fun. Last week was my biggest ever video, so thank you guys for that. We're on the way to 10K, so let's try to get there. Starting off with the number 1 overall pick, we finally have the pre-playoff draft order. Or is that even right? No, the pre-playoff draft order down. So up to pick 18 is solidified. Hallelujah. There we go. This is going to be a live mock draft. I heard Dak Prescott say, "Here we go," in my head, and I was like, no, we're not starting this video off on that note. But at pick number 1, the Chicago Bears are here, and they're going to remain here. And the first 18 picks finally will not be shifting every week, which is going to be crazy. But Justin Fields had, unfortunately, not the best ending to his Bears career. You know, with Caleb Williams on the board, potentially Eberflus being fired, I know there's a very strong inclination that Getsy is getting fired for sure. I think Caleb is going to be coming to town. So we're going to be selecting Caleb Williams for the Bears. Just long story short, I am going to be trading away Justin Fields. And the question is, do we send him to the Falcons? Because I think that's a very solid move. Or do we send him to the Raiders? I think we're going to send him to the Falcons. Since there's no trades in this one, I can't even make a short-range trade after this. Again, there's no trades apart from this one because naturally this is going to make a massive impact on the draft. So the Falcons are going to be trading for Justin Fields. It will take potentially 2 second-round picks. Maybe it won't take that, but it's not going to affect this mock draft. So the Bears are sending away Justin Fields to the Atlanta Falcons. And again, feel free to disagree with the trade compensation. I know it's going to be at least a this year 2. People want it to be a this year 1. I'm not going to be on that tier yet. But the Bears get their second-round pick back that they sent for Montez Sweat. Caleb Williams comes into the building, and potentially a new OC, at the very minimum, if not head coach, will be brought in to maximize Caleb Williams. Now, he is very similar to Justin Fields in terms of his strengths, mobility, playmaking, just overall God-given ability that not many other people have. But Caleb Williams is a processor, a little bit better. As a passer, I thought Justin Fields would be a little bit better, but Justin had a hard time. His time to throw was very high there at Ohio State. And Caleb Williams, not as much. I just remember that was the one issue, is that Justin would either be more of a one-read type of guy or else take a little too long to throw. Caleb Williams, to be fair, does take quite a while to throw. But, you know, those playmakers naturally do. His processing just is a little bit better. I do love Caleb Williams. I love Justin Fields. There's a multitude of routes you can go with this pick. But when ending off on that note, it almost seals the deal. And Atlanta gets to prosper for it. We'll talk about that when we get to them. At pick number 2, the Washington Commanders are sitting here. And as much as I would have loved to send Caleb Williams to Washington, that is not happening. They still need a quarterback. In a perfect world, I actually would debate trading back and then selecting an offensive tackle for this team. But I'm going to go after my number 2 quarterback in the draft, Jayden Daniels out of LSU. He has extreme playmaking ability. I wish he were a little bit more averse to contact. He takes some big hits. The same thing with Drake May. I think Jayden Daniels is just a little bit more consistent in terms of his placement. Drake May needs to be in the right system, but he actually has as high of a ceiling as Jayden Daniels because Drake May's high-end playability is incredible. I think Jayden's just a little bit more consistent. You have great weapons here. His placement's incredible. Some people say that it's the talent that was put around him at LSU, but I don't think so. You don't randomly go from being number 1 or number 2 in the country and like uncatchable throw percentage to randomly throwing darts to higher level weapons. It's just like uncatchable throw is a quarterback stat. He doesn't have that high of an uncatchable throw stat anymore, and he's making some absolute dimes. So Jayden Daniels goes at number 2 to Washington. At pick number 3 for the Patriots, y'all know it's coming. It's Drake May. I know that I will definitely be doing this in the future, by the way. We do make mock drafts every single week. I will be potentially testing out the theory of Marvin Harrison Jr. to the Patriots and testing out a quarterback in round number 2 because I do like the potential with that idea. But for this video, we're going to pass on it. Drake May is going to go to New England. Quarterback is the easiest wins above replacement position for this team. Continue to fix some holes in free agency, then just get the quarterback right. It's kind of how the Patriots did it back in the TB12 days, and now they're going to continue it during the Drake May days. At pick number 4 for the Arizona Cardinals. So just a quick little recap for those of mine who are listening to the audio version of this. The Bears go Caleb Williams at 1, trading Justin Fields to the Falcons for 2 second-round picks. The Washington Commanders go Jaden Daniels, and then the Patriots go Drake May. For the Arizona Cardinals at 4, we are, of course, selecting Marvin Harrison Jr. It is not a huge surprise. It is what it is. Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best player in the class. This team's looking for a wide receiver 1. Kind of lines up and makes sense. At pick number 5 for the Los Angeles Chargers, there's 2 routes that you can go here. There is Malik Neighbors and there is Brock Bowers. There's no tight end that remotely comes close to the talent of Brock Bowers in this draft. In round number 2, we might be able to snag some good receivers. So I just trust the drop-off to be significantly less in the receiving department for wide receiver than tight end. This team does need a tight end. Kellen Moore loves his tight ends. I'm sold on Brock Bowers. Now, Joe Alt, I saw that in a pretty much Twitter mock draft, or Twitter top 11 mock draft that Brett Coleman did. He took Joe Alt to the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm all for going after offensive line, but in a trades mock draft, if you want to go that route, trade down, get a right tackle, get extra draft capital, and then you could fill even more needs. But if you have to stay in place, get the best player available that fits your issues, and that is Brock Bowers. At pick number 6, the New York Giants, another one that we are rushing to the podium. It is going to be Malik Neighbors. They've been looking for a wide receiver 1 for a very long time. It makes sense for Malik Neighbors to go to New York. I mean, they had success with the former first-round pick out of LSU as a wide receiver, and they're going to do it again. By the way, you're probably like, why the hell is this guy in a suit? I was in an interview. Also, probably for myself, it's like, what the hell happened to your face? I always have a beard. But honestly, I'm going to go on a bulk, so I thought it was actually a pretty fun idea I always do it once a year, just around this time as well. Just clean shave once and then see like, oh, so that's what I actually look like, and then grow the beard back. So the beard will be back. Trust me, my boys. But yes, I had an interview today. That's also why I'm wearing a suit. So at pick number 7, Tennessee Titans could not, this is just an instant rush to the podium as well. Joe Alt's on the board. He's the perfect pairing for Peter Skoronski. There's certain moves in here that I think need to be made. And essentially, it's the top 3 quarterbacks. Like this top 7, you could rearrange the quarterbacks right here. I feel like it should be pretty much set. Should be. At pick number 8, the Atlanta Falcons got Justin Fields for a 2nd-round pick, technically 2 seconds, but again, feel free to do your own negotiating. They have 1 wide receiver left on roster after this year, and that's Drake London. So when looking at the wide receivers, there's no way. Oh, I am not a fan of how this wide receiver board was reorganized here. And I mean, I have a bad feeling that we still see some guys. Yep. We still see some guys who decided to go back to school. Like PFF, you got to update that, buddy. But Rome Odunze is a perfect pairing for what you have right now. Like Drake London is incredible, but he also needs some lightning to the thunder. And Rome Odunze is a great athlete. He has unbelievable drive. I'm a big fan of his upside there too. You could wait till the round 3 in this equation or in this situation to try to snag a wide receiver. For example, you could probably end up getting a faller like Brandon Rice. Maybe Johnny Wilson's there, even though y'all know I'm a big fan. Jacob Cowing. I'm forgetting, where is the kid from Western Kentucky? Malachi Corley as well. Like, you could try to play Moneyball here, but I'd prefer to play Moneyball with edge rushers because there's actually quite a few solid depth ones. So we're going Rome Odunze in the top 10. At pick number 9 for the Chicago Bears. I just totally took away all the receiving weapons for the Bears. Wow. Oops. So sorry about that. Just, my bad. But Rome Odunze would have been a good selection for the Bears there at pick 9. This wide receiver class has a good amount of dudes in it. We're going to be fine in round number 2. But the positions to target for the Bears are going to be an edge number 2, a quarterback, and a wide receiver. Those are the targets in round number 1. You got Olu Fashanu here. Very hard to see him not go within this range. But, again, this is a very good draft. And teams have specific needs. And there's a lot of really good value in order to fill those needs. So I do believe the Bears will be targeting an edge rusher. I love Jared Verse. I love Dallas Turner. I love Braylon Trice. I love a lot of these players. Surprising to see Chop Robinson sliding so far. He doesn't deserve it. But, to me, Dallas Turner, I'm happy to see people are starting to believe in him as the number one edge rusher in the class. He is the best, and I want to show him a little bit more love. Dallas Turner is going to be a Chicago Bear. He is around that 245-pound mark, which is a little bit light, but the power he plays with is close to 265 pounds. He's extremely versatile and very, very, very athletic. Big fan of Dallas Turner. At pick number 10, the New York Jets. This is a no-brainer. There's Olu Fashanu on the board. Arguably the best tackle in the class. Just a little bit lower on the floor, a bit higher on the ceiling. The Jets have that luxury, and this is unbelievable value to take someone of Olu Fashanu's talent. At pick number 11 for the Minnesota Vikings, quarterback certainly within striking range. You got Michael Penix, you got Bo Nix here as well. I think Bo Nix is going to make people really regret not liking him at the Senior Bowl because he's going to look very solid. He's the highest floor quarterback that you can probably aim for. I don't feel like Kirk Cousins is going to be the one to go back to Minnesota. I do believe they're going to opt for a quarterback. I think Bo Nix might go before Michael if injuries do get in the way. But because I'm going to show some love, Michael Penix will go and stay in purple. It is my dream fit for Michael Penix to go to Minnesota. But at the same time, there are those concerns with age, injury, and just a little bit of a lack of mobility. But during that Sugar Bowl game, he really did have one of those most beautiful reps of escaping and maneuvering the pocket and then throwing it over the middle. Becoming more and more of a fan of Michael Penix as the season progresses. At pick number 12 for the Denver Broncos, another team that I could easily see arming up with Bo Nix here. Unfortunately, Russ is going to be gone. You do have other issues that you can fill. Like you could go wide receiver because I think you do need it. But again, you could wait till round 3, get someone like Malachi Corley. You could play the money ball game there. Edge rusher, I don't feel like it's that big of an issue. But if the quarterbacks are out, this might be the place where Kirk Cousins ends up going. But I cannot project that in this specific mock draft. So we're actually going to have Bo Nix end up going at pick number 12. The quarterback's now reascended up the board. At pick number 13, the Raiders should look at quarterback, but I can't take J.J. McCarthy at 13. I'm sorry. I can't. And, of course, I'm not having Quinn Ewers, Jalen Milroe coming out in this. Jordan Travis is, he will be, I think, coming out. But, his leg freaking broke. And then you got Joe Milton. It's just the value's not right. The value's not right. Just get the best player available. To me, that's Jerzon Newton or Byron Murphy II. Jerzon's going to be a little bit less versatile, but a little bit higher floor because of the fact he's been doing this very consistently for a couple of years. Byron Murphy has now ascended to be my interior defensive lineman 1. To me, it reminds me a little bit of Jalen Carter. But of course, at the same time, you could wait till round number 2 and get someone like Rukaroro. There's a lot of routes you can go. I think going after someone who's going to be a commander of this defense is going to be key. And to me, it's Jerzon Newton or it's going to be Kool-Aid McKinstry. And in round number 2, I'm going to still be able to snag a very, very good corner, but I can also snag a very, very good defensive interior. However, there's not going to be remotely close to the talent of Jerzon Newton or Byron Murphy there in round number 2. So I'm going to go Johnny Newton. Again, you could go actually Byron Murphy there. I just want to get something right. Round number 3, target a QB. Try to get Kirk Cousins here. Just don't go and spend the 13th overall pick on a top 30 quarterback in the NFL. Spend it on a top 15 to 20. And I think Bo Nix could be there. I think Michael Penix could be there. I don't fully believe that J.J. McCarthy will be there, specifically with the Raiders. In fact, I'm actually probably going to trade up with the Raiders, spoiler alert, in one of these drafts coming up. So we'll see what happens there. But at pick 14, the New Orleans Saints are on the board. And I think it really comes down to looking at the best bang for your buck. To me, that's Cooper DeJean, or you can look at Byron Murphy, or you can look at offensive tackle. And Talise Fuaga, very proud the fact that I fell in love with him so early. Of course, I fell in love with players who did not end up doing so well very early. So it is what it is. There's both a positive and negative side to this, of course. Talise is going to be a bigger project than to be moving to left because I just don't know if I could fully trust him there. Then someone like Amarius Mims or J.C. Latham. I think that the left tackle project with Trevor Penning is over. And I think Talise is significantly better. And technically, I think he is better than these two. It's just, do you trust him to move over to left tackle? I think in this situation, you're not going to be getting a downgrade by any stretch. And there's a ton of upside there. Going to be an instant impact in the run game. I'm going to take a swing. He's the best run blocking tackle in the class. So you're going to be getting that right away. And then it is worth having Ryan Ramczyk continue to coach him up and be an elite left tackle. At pick 15 for the Indianapolis Colts. So I've heard some rumors from my boys over there in the Colts side of the universe. Bring the Juice podcast, shouting them out right now. They're talking about potentially edge rusher. I think the idea is you go corner or you go wide receiver. But edge rusher, like a true edge one, is something this team does not have. However, when you have Cooper DeJean, who can play pretty much any defensive back position, it's just impossible for me to pass on him. I would not pass on him there in the 20s. I don't think I would want to pass on him here. You can always go AD Mitchell in round number 2 and be perfectly happy. So for me, I think that value is perfect and spot on. And Cooper can end up being a top 10 safety in the NFL. So you're going to be really utilizing him primarily as a safety, but he will end up probably being a top 10 safety in the NFL. Like, he has the skills, he has the movement skills, he has the hit power, and he's very, very smart. Definitely somebody that should be staying there in the Midwest. At pick number 16 for the Seattle Seahawks. Some really good players who are still on the board. It is unfortunate that they are continuing to fall, but I do know the Seahawks also like to go after the biggest impact on the board. I do think that defensive interior will be on their radar. Byron Murphy II is one of the highest graded players that's still left on the board. That, and then when you look at the edge crew, I could also see them going that route. To be fair, there's some more depth defensive interior that I might want to go after over some depth edge rushers. So I'm actually going to opt for Jared Verse out of Florida State. I think that just continuing to add to that defensive line, especially with the emergence of Boye Mafe, just continue to provide pressure. Edge rusher is one of the most valuable positions in the NFL, and is going to be a massive addition there for the Seahawks. Of course, if you continue to let edge rushers slide, you are continuing to potentially arm your own division rival in the Arizona Cardinals. At pick number 17 for the Jacksonville Jaguars. A very tough position to be in with most of, if not all of the top corners still on the board. I think at this point you have to go best player available. And the one to me that comps the most closely to what you have right now in Tyson Campbell would be Kool-Aid McKinstry. I think his aggressiveness and stickiness in man coverage is better than the rest of the corners on the board. So for me, I'm just going to go best player available in this situation and just get a very talented defensive back. You can never have too many of those. It's been a very disappointing season there for Jacksonville, but it is what it is. At pick number 18 for the Cincinnati Bengals, this is going to be defensive interior or offensive tackle. The two options I see for offensive tackle are very intriguing. I would also like to highlight how we do still have Byron Murphy II here, who I have higher than both of those tackles. However, we have to project what we're going to do in the other picks, right? You do go best player available within reason. I think Byron Murphy's better than Latham and Mims, but I also think that the options in round 2 for defensive tackle are actually extremely good. So, that's why with Jerzon Newton is a difference because he's just been a commander of Illinois for multiple years. If Byron Murphy had 3 years of production, we could definitely talk. But instead, I'm going to go after J.C. Latham out of Alabama here to be the star right tackle. Get Jonah Williams the F out of there and, just reset the time clock. J.C. Latham's a great run blocker, still developing as a pass protector, which I guess is a little PTSD for y'all. But, most of these tackles in this class are not fully polished, and they just have a ton of upside. They're very good players. At pick 19 for the Green Bay Packers, I'm going to be opting for a corner for y'all, and that's going to be Nate Wiggins. I think that his zone coverage ability is very coveted. Instincts off the charts. I think Terrion Arnold technically is better in terms of instincts, but Nate Wiggins has an extra 2 inches on his frame. He's been a corner 1 there for Clemson. To me, that's going to be more intriguing. So Nate Wiggins will be the selection there for the Green Bay Packers. At pick number 20, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers made it into the playoffs. And, there's a lot of really good choices here. Again, very intrigued with the idea of potentially pairing up Amarius Mims with, I'm forgetting why, Tristan Wirfs. So Tristan Wirfs times Amarius Mims would be a nasty combo. However, I don't believe that that's the route that y'all will end up targeting. With so many aging veterans, I do think you continue to go after what is probably considered the best player available by most people, and that's Latu, or Braylon Trice. Both of them are absolutely phenomenal 265 plus pound edge rushers. Latu's a little bit more on the finesse side and more bendy. Braylon Trice is a little bit better balanced. So you really are kind of picking between two different flavors of ice cream. I think that Latu fits a little bit more with their drafting philosophy based on Joe Tryon Shoyinka. Like, they prefer the athleticism and a little bit more of the finesse game, and maybe you can get another year or so out of your veterans. At pick number 21 for the Arizona Cardinals, this is a tough pick because I know I'm going to get absolutely screwed for doing this. But I also don't do this channel to make people happy. I do it to give y'all an honest opinion and also show you love, but it's tough love. Humphreys ended up going down with an injury. I think he's gone. I think he's done. So, with that in mind, I'm kicking Paris Johnson to left tackle, and I'm drafting Amarius Mims to be the future at right tackle. And yes, I did just screw over my own Steelers. So don't try to pull this biased BS with me, because I just screwed over my own favorite team with the player I really wanted to send to him. Amarius Mims is going to be the selection there. So Arizona goes full offense in round 1. Mind-boggling. I'm already seeing the comments saying this is the worst Cardinals draft of all time. Boo-hoo. You get the best wide receiver and arguably the best potential tackle in the draft. I think that you'll be okay. Also, free agency exists. So, this was arguably the best possible option for y'all. At pick 22 for the Los Angeles Rams, corner is very, very difficult to pass on. I do think they actually do need to look at left tackle. Jordan Morgan might be a route that the Rams are interested in, but I do think they end up liking the larger size tackles. If my memory serves correctly, when you look at the size of Steve Avila, they do appreciate size on the offensive line. I'm trying to opt out of taking him early because I don't believe Jordan Morgan's worth a top 22 pick. But I think there's other positions that really do need to be addressed. Corner and edge rusher primarily. And corner in round 2 is going to be a lot better than edge rusher in round 2. Therefore, I'm going to opt for someone who is better overall on my board. But some people might not be over the moon about. That's Braylon Trice. I think he complements not Byron Murphy, RIP, because, I still wanted to take him much earlier than this, but it is what it is. Byron Young? There we go. So he's going to complement Byron Young very well. You're going to have the Lightning and the Thunder now. Braylon Trice has been phenomenal all season long, just had a little bit of a slow start. At pick 23 for the Steelers, we've kind of taken away the majority of the offensive linemen that I would want at this point of the draft. Unfortunately, that's the spot that we're in, praying that Houston ends up winning games just so I can end up taking Amarius to my Steelers. It is what it is. I'm looking at Terrion Arnold here. We do need a corner number 2. Some people actually like going Ennis Rakestraw. I'm not there yet with him. Terrion Arnold's my number 1 corner in the class, but I do understand you could pretty much argue Nate Wiggins is a corner 1, Kool-Aid McKinstry also as a corner 1. Each one has their own respective strengths and weaknesses. Terrion Arnold is a little bit on the shorter side at 6 foot flat, and he's not 200 pounds, but he has unbelievable field instincts, great athlete, and to me reminds me of a miniature JPJ. At pick number 24 for the Miami Dolphins, I'm going to be probably going Jordan Morgan here. Some people believe he will end up being a guard in the NFL. If that's the case, who cares? This team needs it. But I do believe he can be the future at left tackle. So he'd be a short-term fill at guard, long-term fill at left tackle. It's nice to be able to be in range with the Dolphins to actually get someone who I want to draft rather than see what the scraps are that fall. At pick number 25 for the Philadelphia Eagles, there are a lot of really good players on the board. Looking at my next best available, we have drafted, luckily, the majority of these guys. We ended up with Christian Haynes and Byron Murphy being the next 2 to be taken. And then you got Kalen King, Johnny Wilson, Keon Coleman. The wide receivers are falling in this, but, with a stacked class, that is very, very possible. The Eagles, they need to look at edge rusher. Chop Robinson's here. Doesn't really fit the mold of edge rusher I think the Eagles would target. I do also believe that, they could try to fill behind Josh Sweat, not with just pure draft guys. They could end up going after another route. The Eagles are notorious for going after offensive linemen a year before we think they need to. Kingsley Suamataia needs a year to develop as a right tackle, but I think with the potential loss of Lane Johnson in the next year after Kelsey, his best friend, leaves, it is potentially paramount, and I'm going to be drafting Kingsley. I think it's a smart move. You got to think a year ahead, and when you are this talented of a team, and you also have teams that are looking for left tackles, some teams that are going to be looking for, just tackles in general, you need to at least arm yourself, at the very minimum, disarm other teams. At pick 25 for the Kansas City Chiefs, we're seeing a lot of these wide receivers fall, including Keon Coleman. I would love to see an offense where Kansas City does have a true X build receiver like Keon Coleman. I just don't see how that would really work. I think Brian Thomas is the perfect selection for the Chiefs. I prefer Byron Murphy on my board, but Brian Thomas just feels like the better or more right option. So I'm going to go Brian Thomas Jr. At pick 27 for the Houston Texans, we're going defensive interior here with Byron Murphy II. Tavondre Sweat technically is more of the run stuffer, so he actually might be a better fit. But I'm going to give you the best player available. I think you can get any 360-pound dude and plug him in the middle, and he can at least help with the run. Not saying that's Tavondre Sweat, because I love Sweat. I think he's much more than that. But I'm saying you can always find a space eater just based on size. You can never find just a random dude with the skill set that Byron Murphy II has. I think he'll end up going a lot higher than this come draft time, especially after the combine. He's a freak athlete. He's a great player. Someone I have a lot of respect for. For the Detroit Lions, I'm going to be y'all know how I roll. If Chop Robinson's on the board, I think this is my dream pick for Detroit at pick 28. Chop Robinson out of Penn State. Just unbelievable untapped upside that needs a mentor who is proficient with his overall technique, and that's exactly what Aiden Hutchinson is. At pick 29 for the Buffalo Bills. Looking at the safeties is a really, really good option for y'all. However, we're going to opt for a wide receiver here, and you got Keon Coleman. I think that this team could really use a change of pace with Keon Coleman to be their wide receiver one, right next to Stephon Diggs. Technically, Diggs will be the one, but you're talking about an X-build receiver here, someone who's going to be that jump catch guy, more that reliable target, while Diggs is someone who's going to use his route running abilities, so they complement each other very, very well. He'll end up being a wide receiver 2, but probably produce like a wide receiver 1. At pick 30 for the Dallas Cowboys, it's left tackle, it's center. Those are the two positions I want desperately. Not seeing that at the moment. That's not great. Graham Barton's here, and I might end up just opting for that, but there are some really good centers that we could snag down the board. I think defensive interior getting a run stuffer might actually be a move I haven't done in a very long time, if ever. And you got Tavondre Sweat here. Let's test it out. Let's test out the theory. We'll have a good time here. Tavondre Sweat out of Texas goes to the Cowboys. At pick 31 for the San Francisco 49ers, it's, again, one of those spots where you go right tackle and corner. And I'm looking at it. Tyler Guyton is a pretty damn solid option. It's a guy who I'd want to trade back for, but there's just so many teams that are offensive tackle needy that I'm just going to just pull the trigger on Guyton here. At pick 32 for the Baltimore Ravens, I do like to just go Troy Fautanu and end it off on that type of note. And I think I'm going to. It's not ending it off, but end off the first round on that note. They do need a guard potentially as well, and Fautanu might end up being transferred into guard, but he could also fill in at tackle. I love that versatility. Therefore, he will end up being the selection for the Baltimore Ravens. At pick 33 for the Carolina Panthers, their one selection in this draft. They've just been trying to target a wide receiver so badly. There's a lot of really good options. And in fact, it's sad, but Emeka Egbuka is here. And I'm going to go Emeka Egbuka out of the Ohio State University. At pick number 34 for the New England Patriots, let's change it up a little bit. You could get the Tez times May connection there. But, I'm trying to find a way around it. It's a great move, but I'm just going to change up the wide receiver. I'm going to go Xavier Legette out of South Carolina, 6'3", 230 pounds, top 40 player on my board. Just unbelievable potential there. Pick number 35 for the Arizona Cardinals. We have not drafted a single defensive player, and I already hear all the complaints, but that's okay. I still love y'all. I'm going to be going after a defensive interior here in Chris Jenkins. Very versatile, can move inside or out. 305 pounds, excellent run defender. It's exactly what you need. 2 offensive superstars, so the offense is complete. And now you can use all the other picks, including the 3 third-rounders that you have, in order to select key falling defensive players. At pick 36 for the Washington Commanders, I really want to go after offensive line. I think I might take a risk on Graham Barton. Interior offensive line is still potentially available for me to fill, and Graham Barton's going to he's going to be a valued asset somewhere on this offensive line. I'm taking the risk of him potentially failing at tackle to move to interior of the offensive line. At pick 37 for the Los Angeles Chargers, this is going to be a corner. I could go defensive interior here as well, but there's just so many good corners, like really good corners. You got TJ Tampa here, Kamari, Ennis, Kalen, Denzel. I'm going to go Denzel. We'll go Denzel Burke. He's my next highest graded corner, not named Kalen King, but he's a true corner 1. People trying to hate on him, just got to watch him, man. He is a really talented cornerback. Big fan of his game. At pick number 38 for the Tennessee Titans, I think this will probably be a wide receiver in Troy Franklin. Like, big fan of Troy Franklin. Trying to see where I ended up taking Bo Nix. Aw, that would have been kind of fun to... Well, I mean, there's no way in hell that the Broncos could have gotten Troy. But, when looking at it, he does complement Treylon Burks really well. Like, it's a good wide receiver to have. A.D. Mitchell, another really good wide receiver to have. The corners are excellent at this point as well. But I think Troy Franklin is just such a dynamic wide receiver that you can't pass on him. At pick number 39 for the New York Giants, we've gone after Malik Neighbors already. Again, I did this in my previous draft. I actually am very, very much in favor of taking J.J. McCarthy and testing him out. It's a 2nd-round pick. We'll see what happens there. It's a high upside pick, and there's not that many quarterbacks in this draft, so you're going to be getting yourself a very talented player that just needs a little bit more consistency. And this is a great spot for him to have some time to develop and grow with some lower expectations and a lot of firepower. At pick number 40 for the Washington Commanders, we've gone after quarterback. We've gone after offensive line. I cannot call him a tackle. There is going to be a vacancy at edge rusher on this team, and a pretty bad one. I'm going JT Tuimoloau out of the Ohio State University, 270 pounds, just an absolute feasting beast who needs just a little bit more refining. He's not as good as people thought. I was not particularly high on him at the start of the year, and now I'm his apologist. He's a good player. Just didn't develop as much as maybe people who were very big optimists would think so. At pick number 41 for the Green Bay Packers, Tyler Nubin's just the way I've been rocking on this team. I think that safety and corner are their big positions to target. Hate to be repetitive, but it is what it is. Tyler Nubin, very versatile, super consistent this year, used to the cold weather. He's going to be built to play a star role on this team. At pick number 42 for the Minnesota Vikings, we went after Bo Nix. Actually, no, Michael Penix in round number 1. And you got Chris Braswell sitting here for us, perfectly just perched, waiting to be snagged by the Vikings. You're going to have 2 edge rushers, your top 2, and Daniil Hunter, as well as Marcus Davenport up for a contract. Chris Braswell will end up being a great fit for that. At pick 43 for the Chicago Bears, this is probably going to be Jackson Powers-Johnson. We've gone after Dallas Turner as well as Caleb Williams. To be fair, you got Devontae Walker and A.D. Mitchell here. We should get a wide receiver. This team will be looking for a wide receiver. I'm actually a fan of A.D. Mitchell. I think he'd be a very good Chicago Bear. If he stays healthy, he's going to be a super stud. Big fan of what we could bring to the Windy City there. A.D. Mitchell is a Chicago Bear. At pick 44 for the Las Vegas Raiders, again, I said target quarterback in round number 3. I'm going to consider Quinn Ewers as returning until I am notified otherwise. And just overall, I think that this team, you got Joe Milton here as well, just not worth that 2nd round selection. I'm telling y'all, if the value is just not there at quarterback, continue to give him the D, right? Give him that D fence. And Kamari Lassiter, TJ Tampa, Kalen King, talked about him already. Also Dwight McLaughlin, cornerback out of Arkansas. Those guys are my, in quote, sweethearts for this pick. If you cannot give a good QB, which again, I like Joe Milton, but I still don't believe it's very realistic at all to take him anywhere in this range. You got to go and give him the D. So we got Jerzon, Johnny Newton. At this point, going Kamari Lassiter, Kalen King, TJ Tampa, or Dwight McLaughlin, or Ennis Rakestraw are great moves. I'm going to go for the highest upside pick here, and that's Kamari Lassiter. The movement skills are ridiculous. He is a potential first-round pick. Give them the D. And you got AP now. You got APD. I was thinking of Atlanta Police Department for some reason. God only knows why. Regardless, yeah, you got AP. Now you got the D. Pick number 45 for the New Orleans Saints. We ended up targeting a tackle in Talise Fuaga in round number 1. They need some help on the defensive interior, and I'm looking at Leonard Taylor and saying this is unbelievable value. To me, this sounds like a great opportunity to continue bolstering that front. Leonard Taylor will be a very valued addition on this team. Again, quarterback, not valuable enough. Safety, I could have went Cam Kitchens, but I wanted to change it up and get a couple positions that are not necessarily going to be the exact same ones I always target. Cam Kitchens had an up and down year. It is quite possible that he does end up slipping a little bit. At pick 46 for the Indianapolis Colts, we ended up targeting a star defensive back in Cooper DeJean in round number 1. I do think edge rushers should still be on their short list of items to look at. The ones who are available, you got Jonah Ellis, who has yet to say that he's going back to school, which is a surprise to me. But of course, he's not even listed in here. It's the most irritating thing on planet Earth because he's been a very solid edge rusher for a hot minute now. It is Xavier Thomas out of Clemson. So somebody who I think should be at least in the consideration for this pick. I do believe a wide receiver like Devontae Walker would be someone who I could consider as a very solid option. I do know the Colts also are in the market for potentially getting a tight end upgrade. I don't think you need it. But Johnny Wilson also got to play against Michael Pittman Jr. there in high school. So Johnny could be that 6'7" big ass threat that you're a little bit concerned about at 240 pounds. Great run blocker. To me, he's my number 19 player in the class. I think I'll sneak him here to the Colts. So getting two of my favorite I guess, in quotes, positional list players at those skilled positions. At pick number 47 for the New York Giants, already targeted a star wide receiver Malik Neighbors as well as J.J. McCarthy. Hard to say no to Cam Kitchens at this point. But you got Jonah Ellis here. There's a lot of good options. You got Kalen King as well to be that number 2 corner for the future. The interior of this offensive line needs help. And, I could go Jackson Powers Johnson, but I do believe that right now you guys are in a solid position for the future with the Minnesota center you guys took last year. I'm going to go Christian Haynes out of Connecticut. So a very similar trio to what I normally take for y'all. But we're going very offensive heavy with this specific draft. I think you guys could definitely use it. At pick 48 for the Jacksonville Jaguars, Christian Haynes would have been the best selection for y'all. I do believe that right now, after taking Kool-Aid McKinstry in round 1, the Jacksonville Jaguars should be targeting an interior offensive lineman, and Jackson Powers Johnson is the next best thing. Jackson Powers Johnson will be the center for the future for our beloved quarterback there in Trevor Lawrence. Continuing on at pick number 49 with the Cincinnati Bengals, we ended up drafting a right tackle in the first round in J.C. Latham. And I talked about it earlier. This is the way I love to roll. I'm a big sucker for storylines. For me, I love the idea of pairing up, Amarius Mims back with his buddy Broderick Jones. Didn't happen this time. It really bothers me, but it is what it is. But I'm a big fan of pairing Rukaroro back up with his buddy there in Myles Murphy. And, defensive interior with DJ Reader, gonna be a big position to target. He's super flexible as well, so it does kind of remind me a little bit of when y'all drafted Zach Carter, who's very similar, about 290 pounds, kind of a flex edge defensive interior, 295 pounds for Rook. It fits exactly the profile that I can expect y'all to be targeting. So good player. Could have went after tight end there, but I flip it every single week pretty much between going after a tight end and going after a defensive interior. At pick number 50 for the Philadelphia Eagles, we targeted an offensive tackle in round number 1 to play that right tackle spot in Kingsley Sua-Mataea. Now at pick number 50, could certainly continue to go after the edge route. I don't really feel like apart from what's his name, Xavier Thomas, that there's going to be somebody who really matches the profile of what y'all are going to be looking for. So I do think that you guys will be in the market for a corner or a safety. And you got Kalen King here to be like staying in Pennsylvania. He is extremely smart, very talented, good field awareness to me. With James Bradbury being on the way out, Kalen King also has the flexibility to move into the slot in the long run because he is like about 5'11". So for me, I love that. Good versatility. You're getting a defensive impact player right away. It just feels like the right move. At pick number 51 for the Green Bay Packers, debating going Cam Kinchens here as well because I know we already got 2 DBs. Like, why not get all 3? The Holy Trinity there. But with the Green Bay Packers, again, this is a pick I'd love to send away for something else. I do think that you could try to target a future center here in Cedric Van Pran. It is, in my opinion, an upgrade over Josh Myers, but you could upgrade at left tackle for the future in Kron Amajaje as well. I don't think there's that many issues. I do know that you could actually be in the market for a linebacker because Devondre Campbell is not consistently healthy. Junior Colson at 6'3", 250 pounds could certainly be someone who actually steps in and plays a very big role there. I do know defensive interior, if you get a run stuffer, that'd be a very big addition to this team, but I'm not seeing the proper value for a run stuffer here. There's guys I could select at every single level. You could even look to potentially add extra to that edge rushing crew. I wasn't a fan of Lucas Van Ness. It's just a thing. I was not a big guy on him, but I want to test this out. I want to test it out. I've been hearing a lot of y'all talking to me about potentially getting a linebacker for y'all, and I want to get after someone who is going to be, well, 1, playing the natty, but 2, used to those the adverse weather conditions and can still kick ass. Junior Colson, my number 1 linebacker in the draft. He's going to be that guy who steps in next to Quay for the future. At pick number 52, this is another team where I've actually taken Junior Colson too. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they ended up selecting Leatu Latu in round number 1. Hard to not select Cam Kinchens here, but interior offensive line is a position that they are going to be looking at. Cedric Van Pran, hard to pass on, but I think I'm going to pass on him this time. I will be looking, you could look at tight end, but I'm going to actually look at the wide receiver route because we have not gotten a receiving weapon for him. Jalen Polk out of Washington is going to be the choice here. 6'2", 204 pounds. He's super dynamic after the catch too. Just needs to be a little bit more consistent in production on the field. That's why he's being taken here in the 2nd and not in the 1st. At pick number 53 for the Houston Texans, I think Cam Kinchens might be a really good choice here. We selected Byron Murphy in round number 1. I think this offense, under Slowick is phenomenal. Could go Jatavian Sanders here as well, but I could also just continue to see them targeting free agent tight ends. So to me, it's secondary based. You got TJ Tampa here, who's an absolute dog. Quinyon Mitchell, who's a ball hawk. But for me, I want to actually get the future at safety because it's just best player available. Cam Kinchens is on the board, and the Texans capitalize on it. At pick 54 for the Los Angeles Rams, we ended up selecting Braylon Trice in round number 1. In round number 2, the Los Angeles Rams will be targeting a corner, and I know everybody's been clamoring for Quinyon Mitchell to the Rams, and you know what? I'm going to listen. I'm going to cave in. Quinyon Mitchell out of Toledo, ball hawk, over 12 pass breakups during the year. He definitely will be a very valued addition to a team that's been missing the presence of Jalen Ramsey. At pick number 55 for the Pittsburgh Steelers, they selected Terrion Arnold in round number 1. And I already told y'all I'm a sucker for storylines. So let's get Cedric Van Pran and get that Georgia offensive line back going. Big fan of Cedric Van Pran's ability to be in space. He's a linebacker destroyer. He's a DB and linebacker menace, so to speak. He's their biggest nightmare because he knows how to pancake them in space. He's going to be a valued addition over Mason Cole. Just need to continue developing our offensive line and defensive lines as they get older. Get the secondary evolving as well. There we go. English is tough, and you'll be good. At pick number 56 for the Miami Dolphins, we selected Jordan Morgan in round number 1. This would have been a great spot for Cam Kinchens. Could have been a great spot in round number 1 for Cam Kinchens, but good players fall. Jatavian Sanders could be an intriguing, versatile weapon to have in a McDaniels system here. I do think that safety, however, should still be the priority. I have not seen anything on Kalen Bullock returning to school yet, so for the time being, he is going to be my selection. Just not a ton of draft buzz on him, but he's been one of my draft darlings for a hot minute. Big fan of what he can bring to the table. At pick 57 for the Philadelphia Eagles, we have drafted offensive tackle as well as cornerback in Kingsley Suamatea and Kalen King. So I think the Eagles could be in the room for or in the mood for a wide receiver 3 here. I'm looking at Jermaine Burton and Xavier Worthy. Big fans of both of them. However, there still is linebacker on the board. You got Edgerrin Cooper here. You got Peyton Wilson. You got Michael Barrett even in this equation. Like, some good-ass linebackers in this class. I think Edgerrin Cooper is going to test very well. I think Peyton Wilson should be the first linebacker taken. It's just he unfortunately has too much of an injury history. So it could end up being an Eagles 3rd-round selection, but I don't want to end off this draft without the Eagles getting a nice, solid linebacker to help out. He's still a little bit on the lighter side, but that hasn't stopped the Eagles from drafting him anyways. Edgerrin Cooper out of Texas A&M, super consistent. You can see his grade this year. It's meteoric rise. He was really damn good even in coverage. In a straight line, this guy is absolutely electric. So very excited to bring him into the fold. At pick number 58 for the Kansas City Chiefs, offensive tackle is a potential move here with Karan Ahmadjadjeh to be the future at left tackle. Just have him tested out. He will be able to play by season. He just had a quad tear, which, again, means he won't be able to play at the Senior Bowl, but he'll actually be able to play to start out the year. And he's a long-term investment, but he's actually a really damn good tackle. For me, I actually want to test this out. I know defensive interior is a route I normally go, but we got to keep things exciting here. And Karan Ahmadjadjeh goes to KC. At pick 59 for the Cleveland Browns, I usually go wide receiver or defensive interior. Tez Walker is the perfect Donovan Peoples-Jones replacement. They sent him to Detroit. And so getting a true potential X-build receiver at 6'2", 200 would be very, very nice. At pick 60, speaking of the Lions, they are back. And, corner's the route I usually go. It's one of the two. It's corner and edge rusher. And why not go TJ Tampa? He's still available. Big hitter. Just knows how to lay the wood. I love it. Big fan of the value right there for Detroit. There's just some very easy guys that you can just snag as they fall down the board. At pick number 61 for the Buffalo Bills, we ended up drafting Keon Coleman in round number 1. He ended up being a little bit of a faller for us. So here in round number 2, I really do want to look at this secondary. Ennis Rakestraw could be a big addition. I also see that my boy right here in Dwight McGlothern could be a big addition to the secondary. I do think edge rusher is not a bad position to target. You could end up getting another Utah player in Jonah Ellis, who has a crazy drive, crazy motor, and will be a definite asset on this defense. But, I just kind of want to get the best defender available, and that's going to be Ennis Rakestraw, or it's going to be Dwight McGlothern. I think Dwight McGlothern's a little bit more scheme specific. I'm going to go Ennis Rakestraw Jr. here out of Missouri. At pick number 62 for the Dallas Cowboys, we ended up drafting a defensive interior in Tavondre Sweat in the first round. Here in the second, we definitely are a little bit on the lighter side in terms of, Zach Frazier is kind of worth it. It's a little bit of a reach, but it could certainly be worth it. For me, it's a tough spot. It's a tough spot for Dallas. Patrick Paul might be the best move. Yeah, he's been extremely consistent. It might be worth just taking the shot on him. Worst case scenario, honestly, you can swap him and Tyler Smith, because Tyler Smith could be the eventual left tackle, and he's already played well at left tackle. I think I'm going to take a swing on it. Why not? Houston, and it's in the AAC. I don't even know if they're in the AAC. I think they went Big 12, but they play around us quite a bit here in Dallas, so Dallas has plenty of exposure to Patrick Paul. Again, been one of the more consistent players overall. I want to see if they actually have, there we go, pass block grade of a 92.8. He's just been he's been crazily consistent. I'm trying to see if they have any. Okay, now here's a guy. Wow, good job, PFF. But regardless, Patrick Paul, at least worth taking the shot on. At pick 63 for the Niners, they targeted Tyler Guyton in the first round. And this is a perfect opportunity to go after a cornerback in Dwight McGlothern, my number 25 player on my board. Fantastic player. I'm going to use a placeholder there for him in Max Melton. I'm praying that they actually put him in, and they did not. Why do I have hope for PFF? Why? It's not Max Melton. It is Dwight McGlothern out of Arkansas going to the 49ers. It's just pretty obvious they have two issues that they should fill. There you go. At pick 64 and ending off the draft, the Baltimore Ravens are back on the board. And for me, I want to look at someone who could potentially replace OBJ. That's Jermaine Burton or Xavier Worthy. I think both those guys have equal merits. I feel like I'd irritate less people if I go after Xavier Worthy, but I think Jermaine Burton at his significantly larger size, 6'1", 194, compared to 6'1", 172, is just built to be a little bit more of an OBJ role. He has really good jump catch ability as well. Overall, an extremely talented athlete. No disrespect there to our beloved friend there at UT, but Jermaine Burton is going to be the superior target there for the Ravens specifically. So that is going to be the video. Thank you so much for watching and showing the support that y'all always do. Love y'all. See you on the far side.